Welcome back to Fast Track. I'm Laura Hoffman.
And I'm Kyle Bloyd. President Barack Obama is setting his focus on the economy. Many Purdue students who are a part of the organization known as the College Democrats watched his Tuesday night speech in Rawls Hall. Here's Morgan, the organization's watch party.
The Purdue College Democrats is an organization committed to advancing the Democratic Party on local, state, and national levels. On Tuesday, they had the opportunity to watch our 44th president address the nation. Here are a few of the reactions to what they saw that night.
It's going to help states deal with budget issues. Now, fortunately, we're one of the few states here in Indiana that has that's not running a deficit, but we're still going to get some money from the federal government that's going to help make sure our budget here in Indiana maintains its integrity. And that helps Purdue. We've got a spending freeze right here at Purdue, and we could even have spending cuts if the budget situation got worse. So federal help to the states is in the stimulus, and it really helps Purdue in that aspect. For students that are actually here attending Purdue, certainly the $4,000 a year credit that's going to be provided to students to give back to their community is a big plus.
When the president mentioned that families trying to pay for their children's education will get a $2,500 tax credit for all 4 years of college. That obviously pretty directly affects students. Also, his plans to reward service, making any student who serves or any person who serves their nation through volunteer programs or through the military, making sure that college is affordable to them.
When he was talking about the tax cuts for 95% of Americans, that's an extreme shift that you've seen in the matter of just a few months, because he just took office, of the reversal of the Bush tax cuts. And more money going into the hands of middle-class Americans is definitely just going to boost our economy by more money being in the middle class's pockets.
If one is interested in joining the organization, the best way to do so is through the call-outs. Sending an email or coming to one of the meetings posted on the website are also an option. I'm Stephen George, reporting for Fast Track.
The Indiana House's 2010 budget is finally putting universities first, but Senate Republicans are vowing to nix that. Here's Fast Track political commentator Mike Westervelt.
They finally got it right. More than $700 million for building projects at state universities. If you've seen the crumbling conditions of Lilly Hall here on the Purdue campus, you know this funding is needed. But, and this week it's a pretty big but, the state budget is nowhere near completion. It now heads to the Republican-controlled Senate, where it will likely be euthanized. And nope, those aren't my words. That comes from Republican Representative Jeff Espick, as quoted in the Indianapolis Star. I'm sure there's some students sitting in a dilapidated Lilly Hall or a mold-ridden Hevelin Hall right now, wishing they could euthanize some Republican lawmakers. So if not on university buildings, where should that money be spent? I know, prisons. And no, I'm really not making any of this up. I wish I was, but I'm not. If the Republicans get their way, and there's a good chance they will, the only new building construction money in the entire budget would go toward a new prison or an expansion. Yes, we know the state is in a crunch when it comes to prison space, and that's part of the reason the Democrats' draft of the budget included more money for community correction programs. An extra $5 million than requested by Governor Mitch Daniels. Now, community correction programs are a form of rehabilitation for some offenders. They let would-be prisoners keep their jobs and their families while performing community service, allowing them to reintegrate into society. Now, most importantly, studies have shown these programs work as good, if not better, than prisons. Recidivism rates are reduced, meaning these people are less likely to go back to jail. But if Daniels, a Republican, had the perfect budget, he'd do three things, and all of these were mentioned in last week's Indy Star. Number one, as we said, the only new building projects would be for prisons. Two, he'd cut overall higher education funding by roughly 4%. And three, he'd virtually flatline K-12 education spending. Daniels, you really should be embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for you. The House bill is on the right track. It sends a strong policy message that education, not prisons, is our focus. That is, of course, unless you're a House or Senate Republican. I'm Mike Westervelt. Until next week, be well.
The power of the people still exists today, but in cyberspace. Users of Facebook recently canvassed the internet with protests against the site's sudden change of terms. Here's Kate Vanneman with the story.
Recently, Facebook decided to maintain house and update its terms and policies. According to their original terms, by creating a Facebook account, users were allowing Facebook licensing rights to their uploaded information, such as posts, pictures, and other material.
the subtle clause here was that they could also use it for advocacy of Facebook and things like that, which means they could use your poem in one of their commercials if they wanted to. Okay, you still owned it, but you gave them license. The change they made in trying to simplify this, at least that's their claim, was they also went on to say that you give them a perpetual license. So even after you remove it or after you even leave Facebook, they still have that license.
Bloggers and websites such as Perez Hilton and Twitter picked up the story within minutes, and hundreds of people began to protest.
The internet community has power, and if there's a way to mobilize that for a purpose, you can have more effect than you know.
Facebook has returned to its original policy, which does not include a perpetual rights or licensing term. But users beware, other sites such as Gmail do contain a perpetual rights term, and even though considered a mistake, Facebook will most likely be revisiting its terms again in the near future. Just remember that cyberspace rule of thumb: don't post anything online that you wouldn't show your own grandmother. Reporting for Fast Track, I'm Kate Vanneman.
Facebook has updated their terms again. They're asking users to vote and blog about their new terms. Final changes will be announced at the end of this week.
For the first time, no team from Purdue will be in the national finals of the Rube Goldberg competition. The Purdue Society Professional Engineers, a perennial favorite, was the high-ranking Purdue team with a third-place finish. The Illinois Rube Goldberg Society from the University of Illinois won this year's challenge of replacing a light bulb in the most complicated and imaginative way. The competition is hosted by Purdue at both the regional and national levels.
Up next, we'll catch up with the men and women's basketball teams as they get closer to March Madness.
Plus, we'll get to know a Purdue bodybuilder and take a look at the weather across the country. Stay with us.
You've seen the All-American Marching Band and the world's largest drum. But did you know there's an entire other part to Purdue bands? Hundreds of band students, none of them music majors, participate in orchestral, jazz, and spirit bands that play all around Purdue. Concerts take place year-round and are always 100% free. For concert dates or how to donate to the band department, visit www.purdue.edu/bands today.